Gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of Dungeons and Dragons Worlds and Realms from 10 Speed Press and Penguin Random House. This 360-page hardcover is available now. It's written by Adam Lee, does carry an MSRP of $50. I should mention I got my copy at Target for $30. I don't know how long that pricing is going to go on, but that was certainly a smoking deal. All right. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Dungeons and Dragons Worlds and Realms. A few things I want to mention before we jump on in. First of all, you just heard me say I bought this at Target, so this is not a review copy. So this is not from Wizards of the Coast in the first place. Not that it matters because WotC doesn't send me review copies anymore anyway. But this is from 10 Speed Press and Penguin Random House. So I don't honestly think they were really sending out review copies in the first place. So people were asking me if I was going to review this or when was I going to review this. So through the kindness of friends of the channel, such as people like Will Burton and Joshua Edwards, the Madman, Toothless, and Agile Monk, just to name a few, and their very kind donations by way of paypal.me/the gaming gang, I went and purchased this book because people were asking for a review. And when I can, I do my best to provide you with what you ask for as far as coverage of various different gaming or gaming related releases. Having purchased this, it's pretty obvious neither I nor anyone else have received any sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that anyway. We're also not going to look at each and every page, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. So first thing we're going to do is take a quick peek at the credits page, although this is a pretty short credits page. There is a section with art credits. Thankfully, I thought that was very cool. So every single piece of artwork, to my knowledge, does have the artist credit throughout the section at the end of the book. I like that a lot. So as far as the credits we're seeing here, it's Adam Lee, as well as some other contributors who shared some stories for this book. As far as the production quality, this is really nicely done. The paper stock, nice and thick. This is what we would call back in the day a coffee table book. It's a premium hardcover, lots of artwork. This is not a game book. I think there's a misconception out there with some people who think that this is a source book of various different settings to bring to your table for Dungeons and Dragons. That is not the case. This is a fictional volume, which is written from the point of view of Mordenkainen, the famous Greyhawk mage, and basically telling stories about the various different realms and the different settings, both on the material plane and throughout other planes of existence too. So we do start off with Greyhawk. So we will see a lot of artwork drawn from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because Greyhawk, at least early on, was the default setting for Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to be precise. We will also dip into Mystara, which I have already mentioned. I'm kind of surprised that that's not really our default setting for this 2024 edition of Dungeons and Dragons, that they're kind of focusing more on Greyhawk. Not that Greyhawks can be the default setting, but Mystara is quite a bit more of a wide open epic fantasy sort of setting as opposed to like Greyhawk. Greyhawk's a bit more European, bit more medieval as far as its architecture and fashion, things like that. So once again, like I said, kind of surprised because Mystara is a bit more open. I got to say, I was really enjoying the read through of this because if you follow the gaming gang, you know, way back in the day when I was in high school, I left Dungeons and Dragons behind probably right around 1982, 83, because we were playing other role playing games. And of course, I had gotten into running Call of Cthulhu, which I have for decades. So I moved away from Dungeons and Dragons. So I really didn't know a ton about a lot of the various different settings for D&D. Like even Dragonlance, I know a little bit about it, but it's mainly because of the release for 5e and other settings. It's the same thing, like Spelljammer. Sure, yeah, of course, I knew a little bit about Spelljammer, but my knowledge essentially comes from the fifth edition release, just like Ravenloft. So I really like the fact that I had an opportunity here to kind of delve into some of these places in the context of the edition they first appeared in. I like that quite a bit. So, as an example, we've got Faerun, which for the most part is the default setting for 5e. We'll get into Eberon. Now, I will point out there are people who are going to be very disappointed that there is no Dark Sun. Sorry about that. I know there are a lot of folks out there who are really hoping that Wizards of the Coast will bring that setting back. And I get emails from people quite often asking what my thoughts are on that. And it's not like I've got some inside dope with Wizards of the Coast. I just don't see it happening, though. There are just some very sticky aspects to Dark Sun that I know for a fact Wizards of the Coast just does not want to deal with as far as Dungeons and Dragons. So keep that in mind. We will get info about the Feywild as well as the Shadowfell, getting into still on the mortal plane, but kind of adjacent to the material plane, I guess I'll say. So we get that information, and then we'll start diving on into our other planes of existence. Very nice. Very cool. I really had a blast reading through this. And the reality is, this is a pretty quick read, also, because as you can see, there's so much artwork throughout. But we'll get into Spelljammer, we get into Sigil, we get into the various different levels of the hells. Very cool. Very cool, I have to say. Now, there is some new artwork as well, like these pieces here are new for the various different section dividers, I guess we'll say. So this is new artwork. Everything else, to my knowledge, though, is artwork from previous editions. Now, I will say that the Art in Arcana book, that is, I think it's also from 10 Speed Press. I know it's from Penguin Random House. I love that book. And this is similar in some ways to that book, and like this quite a lot. Here's those art credits I talked about. So every piece of art, the artist is credited. Then we'll wrap up with an index, and that is a peek inside Dungeons and Dragons, Worlds and Realms from 10 Speed Press and Penguin Random House. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. I really like this book a lot. I'll tell you what, this is not a 10 out of 10, though, sadly. And the reason for that is because I really could have done without the whole Mordenkainen narrative. I would have rather have seen the information and the lore and some of the history of the various different locales presented kind of straight up. Because, for one, I don't necessarily need the fictional opinion of a fictional character about fictional places. I'm just saying. And, you know, he's not necessarily a reliable narrator in some respects, too. But outside of that, I love this book. This book is really cool. It's just absolutely jam packed with artwork that, as a game master, as a dungeon master, will really get your creative juices flowing. So I loved seeing that. It was really cool to see a lot of the artwork from editions that I had never had an opportunity to actually take a peek at before. So I thought that was very nice as well. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I ding this a little bit because I don't like the narrative presentation, but I still give Dungeons and Dragons Worlds and Realms a 9 out of 10. It is that good. And once again, if you're in the US and you want to try to get a smoking deal on this, I picked this up for $30 from Target. Like I said, I don't know how long that deal is going to run, but if you're interested, jump on that. All right, that's it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you very much for watching. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.